Welcome to the Taste Test channel, and in this video I'm super excited to be taking an impartial look at luxury cookie and biscuit selections and gift tins from around the world to discover how some of the best-selling and iconic varieties around the globe differ in taste. In our lineup today we have one of the most globally recognised tins out there, Royal Danks Danish butter cookies from Denmark, Spain's beloved iconic brand Donna Jimena, fine Italian pastry makers Matilda Vincenzi, a traditional British tea time selection from Cartwright and Butler, popular Arabic choice Sofra Damascene cookies from Syria, and finally biscuiteers to the Royal Court of Belgium, de Lacre. As always, just for fun, we'll be awarding our Taste Test channel Best in Class award to the winner, and if you're new to the channel, a very warm welcome, and why not hit subscribe and ring the bell to join us for our regular taste tests. So, cookies, or biscuits as we call them here in the UK, we've been eating them in one form or another for thousands of years as a dry, flat, long-lasting food suitable for travel, especially at sea. Sweet versions, we believe, first originated in Persia around 600 AD and were commonplace across Europe by the 1300s. Later brought to the Americas by the Dutch in the 1620s, with the Dutch word koekje being anglicised to cookie, whilst most English-speaking countries called them biscuits. Today, they continue to bring joy all over the world, but in so many different forms, we thought it would be fascinating to hunt out some of the most popular and well-loved selection boxes, the sort you might give as a gift, from all around the globe. The first biscuit tin, by the way, was invented by UK firm Huntley and Palmer in 1831, with their first decorative printed one coming out in 1868 and being exported worldwide. As always, there's loads more out there to choose from, and we can't include them all, but do let me know your favourites, as my husband regularly reminds me, you can never have too many choices of biscuits. Moving on to cost, these cover quite a range, and costs may well differ depending on where you're based. The tin sizes vary, so you can see the price that I paid per 100 grams of cookies as shown below. As you can see, Cartwright and Butler of England were the most expensive, and Danish Royal Danks were the cheapest. Nutritional-wise, we're talking cookies, so as with all treats, moderation is key, and each individual biscuit will of course vary, but there are also general differences between the brands, so the chart below lists the average energy content for each make, per 100 grams of cookies. As you can see, English Cartwright and Butler has on average the most energy, and Matilda Vincenzi from Italy has the least. Fat content shows that Spanish Donna Jimena has the highest levels, and again Matilda Vincenzi has the lowest. Looking at sugar though, de Lacre from Belgium has by far the most, no doubt due to its heavy chocolate content, while Sofra Arabic cookies have the least. Finally, salt or sodium shows that Cartwright and Butler of England has the most, while Spanish Donna Jimena has the least of all. But how will all of this affect the taste? Well, I'm pleased to say that's why we're here, and I can't wait. So we'll start our test with possibly the most internationally familiar biscuit tin to families around the world, the iconic Royal Danks butter cookies from Denmark. Thanks to its global appeal and consistently useful packaging, this tin has managed to disappoint generations of kids who've eagerly opened it expecting cookies, only to find buttons or sewing thread. Myself included, I recall, on many occasions. Apparently, it's one of the most reused and familiar tins out there. The image has been the same since the bakery started in 1966 and depicts an old Danish farmhouse. I'm going to say Hemstamsgård, from the island of Funen. Still Danish baked today in the traditional manner, you'll find these worldwide, particularly at Christmas, with their 5 familiar and classic shapes. Notable contents includes coconut and 28% butter. So what we're going to do is unbox all the tins first so we can compare them visually side by side, and then we'll move on to the tasting. So let's open up the tin and see what we've got. So it looks like you get exactly what it shows on the tin, with their classic sugar-coated pretzel shape and country style, along with the iconic vanilla ring, and then the round finish style and coconut. They're light to the touch, and the aroma is butter, sugar and vanilla. And I'll look forward to trying them after we've opened the others. Next, from one of Spain's most popular confectioners, we have Pastas de España, traditional Spanish pastries and biscuits. The brand, Donna Jimena, is named after the wife of celebrated Spanish hero El Cid. They started in 1961 as a small village cake shop and are now one of Spain's largest producers of pastries and traditional specialities for Christmas. And the tin we have here is just the sort of thing you might give someone as a seasonal gift in Spain, and it looks lovely, I think. Today they're sold in 70 countries and are regarded as an ambassador Spanish brand. Noteworthy contents includes almonds and cinnamon. So let's see what we've got. So all individually wrapped and 4 different varieties, including an anise ring, which is a typical Spanish Christmas treat, and the other 3 are crunchy almond delight, egg yolk crumble cake and almond crumble cake. And if we see them unwrapped, which was a challenge in itself by the way, as they're very soft and crumbly, they're very doughy looking and a lot paler and less cooked, I have to say, than the picture on the tin. The aroma is powdered sugar and spice, and I'll be intrigued to see how they taste. Next, from one of Italy's finest pastry makers, Matilda Vincenzi Assorted cookies, or Minivoglie, which means little desires. Signora Matilda Vincenzi began making pastries in a small local bakery in Verona in 1905. Despite many other bakeries selling the same traditional items, it was her dedication to superior taste that grew her reputation right across Italy. Today, the company is still family-run and has become one of the world's top manufacturers of Italian pastries, ladyfingers and amaretti. And Matilda's original recipe book is closely guarded in the company museum. You can find these sold in over 100 countries. And let's take a look inside. Well, firstly, I'm very impressed there's no damages. They were really rumbling around loose in the tin and had to survive shipping, so they're obviously quite hard and robust. But also, what a lovely looking selection. Lots of different shapes and finishes. Not quite as distinct as the pictures on the tin, bit of artistic license there, but 12 different varieties. I can see about 8 here, including round ones with cream fillings known as Grisby, a chocolate pretzel style design here, and notable flavours include citrus fruit, cinnamon, hazelnut, chocolate and cherry. The overall aroma is baked wholemeal tones and a touch of vanilla. Next, a selection of traditional British biscuits from Cartwright and Butler of the UK. Their story began in the north of England in the early 1900s, when the 3 Adams sisters were left fatherless and without income, so 2 of the girls started baking cakes from their own kitchen to make ends meet. They did so well that before long they'd opened a bakery, and later joined forces with another Yorkshire baking family, Arnott's, who continued the business through 5 generations with luxury cakes, biscuits, puddings and later hampers. The name Cartwright and Butler was only adopted after 2010, when they acquired a preserve company with that name to expand their portfolio. Today, they're found in luxury stores in 45 countries around the world. So let's open up the tin. And we'll get rid of the plastic wrapper. So 8 different classic UK favourites, and ranging from shortbreads to lemon fruit rings, nuts and cocoa, stem ginger. We've got a coconut and rolled oat one here, and then a classic chocolate chip. The general aroma is a mixture of butter, sugar, syrup and quite a nice fresh baked smell. Next, a popular Arabic choice, Damascene cookies from Damascus in Syria. This selection includes some of the most famous cookies eaten across the Levant region of Lebanon, Jordan, Israel, Palestine and Syria. The collection here includes many of the region's most famous treats, cookies you'd find commonly sold on the streets of Jerusalem, and ajwa, Palestinian date cookies, of which versions are said to have been eaten by the pharaohs. This box is from popular food brand Sofra, who specialise in Eastern Mediterranean foods. And let's take a look inside. So 3 different varieties, date, sesame and pistachio. It did have a plastic film, by the way, I've just removed it. These are the ajwa date cookies, and they're baked in many Arab households for religious festivals. This is rebir, a type of Arabic shortbread, often with pistachio. They're all quite small and squashy feeling, by the way. And finally, this very sticky barazek sesame cookie. The general aroma is very different, quite savoury, aromatic and sesame, so I'll be curious to try them. Finally, biscuiteers to the Royal Court of Belgium for over 125 years, we have de Lacre and their tea time selection. Charles de Lacre started out as a chocolatier, opening a boutique in Ixelles, Belgium in 1873. With hundreds of handmade delicacies, it went down a storm, and within a few years he was supplying the royal palace. In 1891, he thought why not combine his chocolate with crunchy pastry, and his first biscuit was born, marking the start of the brand's long history in cookies. Today, they bake 2 billion a year, supplying a dozen countries, as well, of course, as the King of Belgium. Notable contents includes white and milk chocolate, coconut and almonds. So let's open up the box, remove the plastic and see what we've got. So 10 different varieties. You get 16 in the kilo tins, by the way. The bigger the box, the more variety. And we've got deli choc slabs, Matardi wafers, and some of their most iconic creations, such as Russian cigarettes, Biarritz, which are the coconut-covered ones at the front, and Marquisette, which look a bit like a chocolate-dipped Viennese. Nice thick chocolate there, and that's the overall aroma, with a touch of vanilla. But we'll see how they actually taste in just a moment. So looking at them all now side by side, it's quite an exciting lineup. I'd say the Italian Matilda Vicenzi is for me probably the most impressive looking assortment, and together with the English Cartwright and Butler and Belgian de Lacre have the most variation. Although the Italian ones could have been more evenly distributed, the round creams make up about 2/3 of the contents, whereas some of the other cookies pictured have only 1 or 2 in the tin, or are missing entirely. The Danish, Arabic and Spanish selections in general have different shapes, but the recipes seem more on the same palette or theme. But I do like the use of paper cases in the Royal Dansk. And if you're a chocolate fan, you'll probably find the Belgian ones are calling you right now. But with all this in mind, I think I'm more than ready to discover just how good they're all going to taste. So let's move on to the tasting. And we'll start with the iconic Royal Dansk from Denmark. So all very light and crumbly, not dense or heavy like shortbread, instead airy and more like shortcake with a slight crunch. The flavours vary just slightly from cookie to cookie. One has added coconut and is a little more dry and crumbly. One has added extra vanilla. The finished bread is more buttery and, like the pretzel style, has crunchy sugar crystals on top, which adds sweetness and texture. Overall, not a great deal of variety, but what they're doing really well. Lovely and buttery, light and crisp. I completely understand why they're so popular. Next, we'll try iconic Spanish brand Doña Jimena. Okay, so completely opposite to the last ones, all very soft and extremely powdery. The anise ring has strong aniseed, with a texture reminiscent of an Austrian vanilla Kipferl, soft and chalky, with a very sweet powdered sugar coating. The crunchy almond, which looks a bit like a mini scone, is definitely not crunchy, but does have crisp or caramelised almonds in it, and again hints of aniseed, while the egg crumble cake has a strong hit of cinnamon. And the almond crumble cake is so soft it's almost damp. It feels like a compressed mould of powdered sugar and flour. In fact, if you shout at it loud enough, it might just collapse into dust. In all though, uniquely soft and powdery, very sweet, and all quite similar. Next we'll try Matilda Vicenzi Minivoglie from Italy. So softer than I expected, more chewy textures than crunchy ones. The many creams have a thin sliver of filling, one vanilla custard and the other cocoa, a good flavour, and the texture is multi-layered on a few of these cookies. Surprisingly though, despite looking really different, there's less variety in taste than I expected. Most of these have the same underlying flavour, a wholesome, slightly treacly wholemeal flour with a long and strong vanilla aftertaste and a full baked flavour. Nevertheless, a great selection I'd say to give as a gift. Next we'll try Cartwright and Butler of England. So the thing that strikes me most on these is, unlike the others so far, there's no one underlying flavour. Each biscuit is different to the next, both in taste and texture. Some are crunchy and light, some are crumbly and soft, some are chewy. There's strong chewy stem ginger pieces, crunchy nut and chocolate chunks, a dry snappy fruit ring, and crunchy buttery shortbreads. And my favourite of the lot, I think, a chewy and treacly tasting rolled oat and coconut. To sum up, something for everyone, a really nice, well-conceived selection with high-quality tasting ingredients. Next we'll try Sofra Arabic Damascene cookies from Syria. So the sesame barazek is sticky with just a hint of crunch and a strong savoury sesame flavour. They can sometimes taste of honey, but these ones don't. The pistachio reber is very soft, floury and unexpectedly spicy. And the Azure date cookie has a soft cakey pastry which smells a bit like a Garibaldi if you've ever tried one, with a gelatinous date paste inside. But all of these have the same distinctive spice, which I'm pretty sure is mahaleb. It's in lots of Middle Eastern cooking and comes from ground cherry stones. It can taste like bitter cherry or almond, but I've found in some baking it tastes more like a savoury herb or cumin seed. I like a lot of world foods, but for me in these cookies it's a bit pervasive and I'm not warming to it. Finally, we tried de lacre from Belgium. So firstly, the Russian cigarette I just snapped there tastes really good. It's flaky and layered and has a sort of crisp fried donut flavour to it. The wafers are quite soft with very sweet cream filling, but the next cookie was crunchy and far less sweet, so we've got a real variety of recipes going on again. Chocolate is the key theme, but there's plenty of variation there too. The light crisp Biarritz have just a thin painting, while the thick choc slabs have crunchy sugar crystals in the coating, and the white chocolate has a lovely vanilla flavour. To sum up, I've tried lots of Belgian-style cookies which look similar to these, but often turn out bland, with fudgy chocolate. These, however, are top-notch, and I'd highly recommend them. So, what seems like 5,000 calories later, that covers how they all differ in taste, and now, just for fun, we award our Taste Test Channel winners and Best in Class award. For this lineup, I'd happily eat 4 of these selections again. For me, the Spanish and Arabic were not to my taste, but that could of course just be me, and I'm certainly glad to have tried them. But after much deliberation, our top 3 winners are as follows. Winning 3rd place, Royal Dansk Danish cookies from Denmark. Although there may be less variation in these than some of the selections, I felt these deserved a place in the top 3 for executing what they do quite so well. Light, crisp and buttery, it's very hard to find anything not to like about them. Winning 2nd place, de lacre of Belgium. If you want to try a really good example of Belgian biscuits, look no further. It may be chocolate heavy, but there's loads of added dimension, and the quality is first rate. But in first place this week in the cookie selection tins from around the world, the Taste Test Channel Best in Class award goes to Cartwright and Butler of England. Now, anyone who watches our taste tests regularly will know I'm far from British bias, but I have to say this is a worthy winner and a really impressive selection, with every biscuit having a completely different recipe and flavour, and no disappointments. Plus, the quality of ingredients is excellent, so well done to Cartwright and Butler of England. And as I always point out, taste is subjective, and this is purely my point of view, but I hope it's provided some useful insights. So I really hope you've enjoyed watching this episode even half as much as I've enjoyed trying these cookies. A million thank yous to all you kind people who are helping the channel grow with likes, comments, sharing our videos with fellow food fans, or the super generous handful who support us through Patreon or Super Thanks. If you haven't already, we really hope you'll subscribe and ring the bell to be notified of our regular taste tests. Meanwhile, thanks for watching, beam me up biscotti, and I'll see you next time.